Hi, I'm Michelle. Welcome to Inside Ministry. Today I have Brother Cesar with us. This is our first episode. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We are going to start with just some get to know you questions. What do you like to do when you are not at church?
Since I'm at the seminary still, I usually have a lot of homework right now. But besides that, I usually go out. I like to take long strolls along the park, or either that or read. I enjoy reading a great deal.
So are you staying at the seminary or are you at the rectory right now?
I'm at the rectory.
Okay. And how much longer do you have at the seminary?
At the seminary, I have, after this year, which will end in May for me as an internship, I'll start classes again in August, and in August I'll have 2 more years after that.
Okay. And then you'll become a deacon?
I'll become a deacon in the year 2021.
Okay.
And I will become, God willing, a priest in 2022.
Okay. Now, you are part of a specific order, correct?
Correct.
What order is that?
I'm a part of the Friars of the Sick Poor of Los Angeles. 2001 it started, and it's been around for about 19 years.
Oh, okay.
And the reason my superior kind of created it was to minister to the most of us were in that time were in ministry in the hospitals. So that was our calling, is to visit the sick and the poor in the hospitals. But since then, we've kind of branched out. Some of my brothers are now doing ministries in schools, and others are kind of in charge of hospitals now. So we kind of branched out a little bit more as the years went by.
Oh, that's awesome. So how do you like being here at St. Mary Magdalene?
I've never been in a parish before. It's actually my first time living in a rectory.
Okay.
So it's actually been an awesome experience for me. I really enjoy the pastor, Father Preston, and Father Brian, and Father Francis. They're really great mentors in there, and the parishioners are great. So I enjoy that part too. A lot of food.
Did you grow up Catholic? A lot of people hear the term cradle Catholic. So were you baptized and then grew up in the church, or what?
Yeah, I was what you consider cradle Catholic. I was baptized I must have been about 3 or 4 months old when I was baptized. And my parents, there was 8 of us, 8 children, and then plus my mom and my dad. So my parents would drive a old station wagon and kind of throw us all into the car before seatbelts. And we'd go to Mass every Sunday. That was one of my first memories, is going to Mass as a family every Sunday. And I think that's, my mom she was Catholic. She was born Catholic. She was raised Catholic, but she really didn't take on the faith. My dad, on the other hand, really took it on. My dad was his word was law in the house. So, I mean, it was difficult for me to see him sometimes as a father, because he was so strict with us. He was always very demanding of what we should be doing and how we should be spending our times. But I think for me to see him on his knees praying the rosary, it's like an image that I'll hold on to the rest of my life. It's just, it's probably why I'm on this road I am right now. It's just seeing that image of him on his knees praying the rosary, because, like I said, he was pretty hard on us, and it's hard to see him, just praying and being that kind of, just the tenderness of the humanity of him. So I think that's where my vocation that I did not know or had not foreseen would actually end up coming from. It's just that image of him.
So you said you are one of 8?
One of 8.
Where do you fall in that pecking order, and how old are you?
At the moment, I am 47 years old. I am number 6 out of 8. So I had 3 older brothers,
Okay.
2 older sisters, and 2 younger sisters. So we're split 4 and 4.
Does all of your family live here in the LA area?
I have, yes, the majority of us live here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Or in Orange County, and then I have a sister that lives in Arizona and another one that lives in Texas.
Oh, okay.
We still love them.
I have a brother in Texas too, so I totally. You said your father impacted your faith journey, especially looking back on that. So, with that being said, did you know that you always wanted to be a priest, or was there a turning point? And what was that turning point?
Yeah, absolutely not. I did not want to be a priest. I wanted to be anything but a priest growing up. And I'm what you call a late vocation. And my vocations actually started when I was about 40 years old, which was about 7 years ago. But that came about through me. When I was younger, I used to be a truck driver, and I did that for a living. I did that for about 10 years. For about 10 years, I was a truck driver. I was making good money at the time, and I enjoyed my life. I had a lot of friends. I had my own place. I had 2 cars, and I was doing this all on my own. And I was living kind of a life it's kind of free life. And I enjoy having, like I said, I enjoy having my friends over all the time, and I wasn't hurting anybody, so I was figuring, it couldn't be a bad life. And I grew up in a neighborhood which was kind of terrible, had a lot of drugs and a lot of gang activity going on in the area. And I remember when I was about 14 years old, I had a close friend. Well, we grew up since we were in elementary with each other. It was a couple of us that grew up that way. And I remember him inviting me to go to a party. It was a graduation party, and my brothers were kind of bringing me in. They were making me go to work with them, and they'd take me to go play basketball with them in the evenings with them. So I would stay out of trouble and try to stay. They were trying to keep me away from my friends. Now I could see it now, but at the time I couldn't see it. And he went to this party, this graduation party, and that graduation party got shot at that night. And there was several people that got shot that night, but he was one of them that got shot, and he actually ended up dying the next day. And he was 14 years old, and I was 14 years old, and it kind of, put my life kind of. Life became real at that moment. It was before it was all, cowboys and Indians were all playing around, and it was just, I'd seen people get shot, I'd seen people get stabbed before, I'd seen people get run over, but, they'd end up in the hospital, and, a few months later, they'd be back on their feet.
Wow.
And this time, it was permanent. There was no coming back from that. And there was some bitterness that I grew up with, trying to make sense of it. A 14-year-old trying to make sense of something like that. It's, I couldn't vocalize it, I couldn't put it into words, couldn't express myself. So there was some bitterness going on inside me. And it seemed like every couple of months later, somebody else would die, somebody else would go to jail. And one time, a friend of mine went to jail, and he did, I think, like 2 years in jail, and he came out, and we still always throw barbecues for them when they'd come out. And I remember after the barbecue was over, this friend of mine was 2 or 3 years older than me, asked me for $40, and I gave it to him. And at the time, it was kind of like an epiphany for me. A light came on. I thought to myself, this could be me. This could be me in a couple of years, asking somebody younger than me for money. And at the time, I gave it to him willingly, and I never asked it. He never gave it back to me, and I never asked him for it back. But it was probably the best $40 I ever spent in my life. Just having that image, having that epiphany turn on in me, thinking that this could be me. And I kind of made myself a promise that day that if I ever made it to 18 years old, then I would move out of the neighborhood and never look back. And sure enough, and I was going to school, and my brothers were taking me to work after school, so it was keeping me busy. And sure enough, I made it 18 years old, and my boss offered me a job right off the bat to start driving trucks, and I took it. I never looked back. But I was coming back into the neighborhood because I always had friends there, and that bond always connected me back to the neighborhood. And on a fateful night, me and my brother, my older brother, he was a year older than me, we were working together, and we both got off at the same time, and we both ended up at my friend's house. And my friend had a garage kind of turned into a man cave, had a pool table and darts, and we'd play dominoes. So we'd show up there like once a week to play and to have a couple of drinks and just to hang out, catch up with each other. But this night, there was a guy from the neighborhood that had gotten out of jail, and I knew of him. I knew who he was, but I wouldn't call him a friend. But he was out there, and we were all having a beer or two, and this guy was, doing drugs. And for some odd reason, him and my brother, he picked a fight with my brother, and my brother and him got into a fight, and that guy left, and a couple minutes later, I remember my brother telling me in my ear that he was going to go get something from the car, and my brother walked out to the front of the street, and I heard like 5 minutes later, I heard like 5 or 6 gunshots, and then I was kind of surprised at the sound, and I was kind of surprised it was happening so close. But there was the neighborhood, and there was always shootings there, so at first I didn't pay too much mind of it, and then I remembered that my brother was at the front of the house, so I went to go check on him. And as I got halfway down this long dark driveway, I saw somebody running towards me, and we kind of bumped into each other, and I saw that he was kind of surprised that we had bumped into each other, and he pulled out the gun from his waist, and I saw the gun, and I thought to myself, move or you're gonna die. So I went for the gun, and he shot. The shot hit me in the shoulder, and it kind of spun me. And as I spun, I heard the second shot almost immediately. I fell to the ground face first. And as I fell face first, I thought to myself, move or you're gonna die. And as I went to move, my body wouldn't move. And I heard, he was basically standing over me, and I heard click, 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 and he was out of bullets. And he ran off into the night. I remember waking up 2 days later in the hospital with tubes coming out of everywhere. And I was in and out because I was in sedation of morphine. And I remember talking to my mom and my dad, asking, how my brother was, how my older brother was doing. And they assured me that he was okay and he was in the room right next to me. But something inside me knew that there was something else going on. So when the chaplain came in, we started having a heart-to-heart talk with them, and he told my family that I kind of knew, and then he came in and broke in the news. Him and my sister came back into the room and told me that my brother was dead. Well, he was brain dead, and they were going to take him off the vent. And they told me that the bullet hit me in the spine, and I was paralyzed from the chest down. And it kind of just threw everything up in the air for me from that point on.
I am sure I can't even, wow. Wow.
But I think that's another twist to my vocation. My vocation was born out of that tragedy. So it's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah.
To know something like that, it's a two-edged sword, because you know it, and you felt God's mercy, His grace. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the loss is tremendous.
Yeah. On a lot of aspects.
Right.
Wow. And so the chaplain that ministered, to you and was there for you in the hospital, is he part of the reason, is he part of the order that you are in?
Yes, he is actually, he's a founder of my order, and he's actually my superior at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think there's been, there's probably been about, we talk to each other almost on a daily basis, if not every other day. So it's just that kind of bond that we have. That day when he came to see me, and then he came back and he kept calling me when I was at different hospitals, or he'd go see me when I was doing therapy. I ended up being in the hospital for about 2 months after everything was done with, and he'd visit me from time to time, or call me, we'd text each other, and so it was, he was God to me. He was Jesus for me at that time. He was the person that I needed. He was at the right place at the right time for me, and he showed me God's mercy, basically.
It's the face of Jesus.
It's the faith of Jesus, yes.
Wow. And so so that had the twist that helped, move you in the way of your vocation. So what ended up solidifying you to go back to school and then head into the seminary?
I think, let me back up a little bit, because when all this happened to me, there was part of me that was kind of, fighting with myself for the person I used to be to the person I wanted to be. And the person I was before was upset, was angry, and but I knew that if I had to carry that anger with me, I knew I had to choose God. I knew there was no other way to find peace in my life other than choosing God. But I was still fighting with myself on the other side, which way to go. And so I I chose God because I wanted peace in my life again.
Versus the vengeance and that initial just anger, let me get what you deserve. And
Absolutely.
because is that really going to bring you peace, and where would that really have taken you?
Right. If I would have chosen, I mean, it was very easy for me to choose the other way as well.
Oh,
It was
probably the easier choice
Right.
per se.
to be the bigger man and say, you know what, I forgive you. It was not in me, believe me. And it was the grace of God that gave me to say yes. And to say I have absolutely forgiven this person, I'm working on it still. But I'm giving it to God every day. I'm saying, it's yours, and help me carry this cross today. Because I want to be at peace, and I know only with you it's peace.
Yeah. Holding on to that isn't.
Yeah, it's poison, I know that.
Ugh. Yeah. That definitely would be difficult to, and that's even with, as we're talking to you candidates and adults, the RCIA adults, of, letting go of stuff and giving it to God. That's something that we definitely, it's part of the faith journey.
Right.
And, that is a true testament of trusting. It's the trust. It's having faith when you can't actually see what the outcome's going to be.
I would not, I mean, if you would have told me from that day on when I said, yes, it's yours, God, please help me carry this cross. I mean, I couldn't even predict to say, okay, you're going to end up in a seminary and be a brother or a priest. No, it was far-fetched for me even then.
So how did you end up becoming a priest then? If it was so, you gave it to God and then you're like, but that isn't. So how did you move forward to here?
The chaplain that I had seen at the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, he stayed persistent with me. He kept track of me, and he kept coming by and kept, calling me and kept, just asking the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd pour my heart every now and then. I'd cry, and it was more crying than I ever probably done in my life. But at the end, he offered me a part-time position as a chaplain. I was already volunteering, coming off and on. He'd call me when somebody was, newly paralyzed or motorcycle accident, gunshots. So I'd go in there and talk with the family and, kind of give them, perspective that there is life after injury like this. And every now and then he would call me and says, you know what, I got this, young kid that's got shot. He's a gang member, and, I can see there's light in it, can you come and help me out a little bit? And I'd go and talk to him and give him a little bit, tell him that there's life beyond the neighborhood as well. And so pretty soon there was a part-time position that opened up as a chaplain. He offered it to me, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to take it or not. He basically told me no strings attached. If you like what you're doing, you can stay with it. If not, in 2 or 3 months from now, we can shake hands and say, we tried it. So I started as a chaplain. And I think for me, the changing point, too, was going to Mass every day, listening to the Word every day, receiving communion every day. Started going back to confessions, and it just changed my life. And not only that, but ministering to people was also, not only I thought I was doing the witness, but they're actually doing the witness to me. There's people that have lost, even more so than I have, and they're, preaching to me about Jesus. And I was looking for that faith. I wanted that faith that they had. I was jealous, I was like, how do you get that? Where does that come from? And so I wanted that kind of faith. I thought it was a beautiful faith, and I went for it.
One of the big things that I heard is when you said, and I know this struck a chord for me because I'm a mom of a 14-year-old. When you were 14, the things that you had seen and been a part of, to be like, I saw this. I was the first time that this had happened in front of me. That's huge, for these kids that, they don't make those decisions, or how do you get out of those decisions?
I think that was more of just the grace from God. I'm trying to say, you know what, I want you in this direction. I'm going to let you experience this, but I want you to understand, to take from that and, head in this direction. And I think he does that throughout our lives. I mean, we always ask ourselves, why me? Why this? Or why that? Why did I have to, experience that? And in reality, sometimes it's not meant just for us, but it's meant for the people we love, or for us to tell it to other people, so they can hopefully learn from what we've gone through and they don't repeat what we've been through in life.
Growing up in your neighborhood, was it like cool to walk around and be like, woo, Jesus?
Oh, no. Oh,
You know
no.
what I mean? So that's some of these kids, that's who, yes, they're in Camarillo, the rough streets of Camarillo, but that's what they feel like they're in.
Right.
Is that it's not cool to be like, I love going to church. I love Jesus. What advice do you have for them to continue to grow their faith, even if they're doing it it's more of an internal thing than an external thing?
I used to have a professor of mine. I remember him telling me, do you want to make a change in this world? It starts with a simple smile, and that's what we're taking this class for. He says, I want you to smile from here on out to everybody. He says, you smile at the grocery lady, you smile at, somebody putting gas for you in your car. I mean, you smile at everybody, and that's how you change the world, with a simple smile.
Kindness.
Kindness, yes.
Because you never know when you're going to be the face of Jesus for somebody.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us for Inside Ministry. I'm Michelle, and this is Brother Cesar. Bye.